trees, with slight traces of a struggle long since past. The eastern wood of the valley are silent and still, except for the sinner's hoofsteps, and the little voices that bore her face, telling her anything she wanted to hear, and everything she didn't, so strong and clear, that there were only reminders, only limits, clipped feathers and hobbled hooves, blinded ears, deaf ears, numb, aching heart. There was only this in the east woods, away from it all beyond the snow and ice that swallowed ponies and painted the land, blanket after blanket, until only the howls of the wind could be heard. Her occasional scream, blood-curdled, twisted, ear-splitting, drowned by any could hear, and all those who couldn't. Not so little Angel, who was her truest companion, wide eyes and strong heart to face the world. Gone. It could be forever. Sun's eyes, blinded by light, bent on judging appearances, see this only now. There was no farewell, no sorry at the first fight, only her self-assurance. We are right. We are right. Maybe it had been the little whispers, shouting together, even if it had not been. Never once did she say why she had been right. It was only automatic, a pleasantry so sickly sweet, she wished it were a poison, just so she might drink it, to see what it would do. Might it bring her heart to the outside so all could see? Would they still love their wolf clothed in wool, their blind god, knowing she was the rottenest apple of them all? Appearances really were deceiving. A bearded sage on the outside, but only a bigoted husk within. Proud, shining, smiling glory, crumbling, pathetic, petty almost monster for a core. She looks away from the ground, littered with dull shining shards of gray, so crystalline in nature, so pristine on the outside, yet just as broken up as she, who kicks them under the snow with a travel-heavy leg and tries to crush them under hoof before looking at the day's journey ahead of her. Little voices echo around her, and only one of them is hers. Phantom bellows from the wizard who never knew honesty. He lied to them when bringing them here, saying they would be safe. Kindness, his manipulation was testament enough to the absence of that trait. Laughter, how was laughing when they were hurt during training real? Generosity, he was but a miser, hoarding the little goddesses. Loyalty, he put no dedication in anything, leaving all endings like his magic, blank. The sound of a haughty tone, so young and vain, can still be heard, trying to master each thou and thee, as if her behavior was not enough of an insult to the little shadow that lingered in the trees, silent but for a few whispers. protests of innocence at the latest accusations, only to be ignored. Even Clover's nervous ramblings, little parables to keep meek little rabbits like herself safe from the traps that waited, were so much louder by comparison. Each little flake falling all around her, not blue but stark white, clear as can be, whatever one wants it to become. When each little bit is grouped together and becomes whole to hide the hollowness within, each is numb, forgotten, no longer what it should be, status quo, indistinct, what they wanted her to be, which is exactly what she tried to become. A mare now, but then a filly, who wished only to define herself, with no cut crystal ice to go by, only the want of others to tell her that she has meaning, that she's happy and loved, that she's a princess. She, the mare with a coat of snow and a mane so out of place, the loneliest of them all, wanders through the snowy wood. She spots a snowflake in the flurry around her, sees it split, and watches the halves drift apart of their own accord, throat sore, and with tears in her eyes, she pretends to forget and moves on. Each step is through a dream that she only wishes to wake up from. Nightmare, nightmare, nightmare. A dream that she wants to forget upon waking up, never to recall a single detail. She hopes to be lost, not lucid. Hooves of gold return to the tower of stone, each held in place by the sorrow of two sisters. The one stopped listening, and the other stopped talking. Dust covers the surface of each broken and rotted trinket until she recognizes it no more. Ash coats the hallways of each forsaken small she must duck to enter. Filth clings only to her who wanders them. Fog masks her eyes that no longer see where they are. Cold numbness pricks each strand of her white, now dirtied fur as she feels the lingering chill. Somewhere in the Catatonia, the princess is found. Mist clears, if only barely, as she sees a door to chamber that is now open, as it was never before, only because a bond was broken, and the hinges can no longer do anything but squeak, 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 like its silent resident never did. Everything is still preserved under wraps of dust. Hardly any snow finds its way into her prison. Bed sheets still unmade. Little signs of yesterday, last week, every day, so many years ago, all still felt today. Small lumps of melting white dot their way across the room like little hoofs in perfect measure to a few sad volumes nestled in a few old cloaks lumped in a pile on the floor. Moth-eaten fur colors hide precious pages that survived everything else worn but intact. Little gold light plucks one up, still in a daze. Words tumble out from page 1. Our name is Luna. Our feathers were burned when we slammed against the barrier. Again, burned feathers. We have to heal ourselves each time, but we must stay hopeful, positive. We can escape. And then convince Tia to come with. Starswirl found out about our plans after we confided in Tia. How could she betray us? Why does she not want to leave? 3 days and no food won't hurt us. We are not mortal. At least, we still have you, little book. 1 night spent crying. 2 spent curling into a ball because it was cold and the window broke. It is over, but Starswirl is still desperate to see us with her. No food for a month. No support from Tia. This time, our speech was to blame. We are not to talk as we do. Today, What does he wish to starve us for so badly? It is not working, but sometimes we do feel a little dizzy. Learn magic control. Learn magic control. Forget your sister exists, all in the life of Tia, who will not even let us call her that anymore. 12 fairly unsuccessful escape attempts, and a lot of not so successful at all ever ones. The tallies under the rug are quite the legion now. Little battalions of 5 and 5 to remind us of our misery. Maybe just one more time. Caught. Solara, as she shall be called now, hit us. Again. We are such a bad fool, says she, and we called her a bad sister, and smack, and now we are here crying and confiding to you, little volume, even though silly Solara tells us how grateful we should be to learn magic. Maybe we should stop. Just stop for a little while. Her slap still stings. Does she regret this at all? There's so much to see from the tower. There's so much to see from this tower. If we can stop trying to escape so stupidly, we can go outside again, and maybe try again, and everything will be okay. There are plenty of books to read in here. We are learning so much more than Solara is from that bore. If only we could go outside to practice all we have read, to get a better grasp on it. It is so nice to be alone. It has always been something we love, but we loathe to be alone and sad. It appears Starswirl will be releasing us from the exile he believed will teach us a lesson. Ha! How wrong he is. Tomorrow we will be released. It is really so. Even though we will not directly challenge Starswirl, we shall not submit to any pony, nor shall we cease attempting our escapes. We are strong, and we will become stronger. Did we not raise the moon all by ourselves? This time we will lay out the plan for a grand, infallible escape, for when our power and form have found a way to blend, we will not be stopped. We can't be. This place is doing something to Solara, because we know our sister is so deep down there, and we must try. There must be hope, no matter how sad we are. Hundreds of entries clutter our old journal, so we needed you, little book. Your page is clean and new. We think the sadness is getting worse. Is this sadness? Sadness does not feel this empty, this deep, this long. We are not lonely. Lonely is only something we feel when around ponies. This feels like being lost. We write so much more. Neat, cramped hoof writing that fits in each page. Still, we can only write so much. We are always relieved in solitude, for it strengthens and frees us. But ponies, Solara, this wizard, Clover, and the new servant, they only smother and chain us, dragging me further and further from purpose and ambition into a light that blinds our sight until our brave new world is only within us. Hope no longer burns, but only takes a different form as these years go by and we hide among the shadows of the trees. Hope remains only in us. Only in the dark does it linger. Only 3 entries within. An introduction of sorts to the faithful constant, as mindless and heartless as the one she left. But this precious friend, just like the last 2, could only bear the truth and listen to her far more than she. Allow her to write each fear and woe, so each time she was to read these, they would be shoved back in her face, for the kindest words she had were her own. Well, maybe there are more than 3 entries, but she was too busy crying to read them. Is what she was, had been, all these new, unfamiliar past tenses, chipping away at what she is, as if she was as fleeting and heart-wrenching as a mortal. Take a long look, blink the tears away, and she's gone, leaving only memory before and a legacy with the empty present between them, to be filled only with mourning and hollow recovery. Little smiles that hide the pain better than any mask stitched in so tightly they cannot be removed without tearing something. She had been so lucky to have a sister, a constant, any companion at all, one so loyal to a fault, that this was the result. She was so lucky that even though she was so close, she never saw her for what she really was. Or maybe she only kept an honest silence until the end. So lucky. So lucky. Fate was so kind to see her little shadow go unused, that they wouldn't even allow her, lone ruler of all she would return to, someone like them to blame, because it all fell to her. Blameless goddess, pure heart, blameless only because she said so and tore down the image of monsters that had been built up while no pony was watching their precious wall of lies. She surrounded herself with the bricks that made up every prejudice, willingly blind, busy, looking away while they threw those bricks at her because she wouldn't change. Her heart was indeed pure, something, anything. Surely it was some absolute, surely so indisputable, in every wrong way. A heart that tore the marks off everything, questions and answers, became one and the same, lies shifted into truth, at least in her mind, and sisters became enemies. Her heart was pure something, on the borderline of everything. She would never let anybody else see. She was so undeniably lucky, but her luck ran out when she had stolen it all, hoarding her miser's gold from the one who had needed it most. Running, screaming, hunger, she tears across various rooms, shrieking like any proper banshee for what she has really lost. Wood splinters, stone cracks, flames lick streaks in her mane before dying, as she rampages across each hidden nook, burning coal eyes looking for more, any words to bring her closer, offer any presence or comfort. Her aching heart, feeling poisoned, puts itself in a clumsy pile, each detail around her focused and clear, sharp and bleak, a tragedy seen for the first time. So she piles little journals right where she can see them, a neat little stack in a glowing cloud of fool's gold, each written in runes none can read. And even she stumbled through, hers and the shadows brought to life in details that redefined haunting, a clarity that hurts worse than any cut. Still, this is one search she won't give up on. At least, not yet. She checks every filthy, dusty, dirty crevice, inspects each disgusting closet, opens hidden, unmarked, improper books that had belonged to the one still believed to be a sage of the ages, and who could only be proved otherwise at the cost of so much privacy, even though none would believe her, despite the speaker. All that happened here was better left unsaid, so not a word would escape her. She, the mighty goddess, in rumor only, steps up from the unfitting floor, where she had currently searched, a small room with a broken fireplace. She knocks a brick aside, where it falls from its worn and tedious perch, revealing a stash of tattered diaries. Whatever momentary relief she had upon finding such tattered treasures was destroyed when she saw that the writing wasn't hers. But she takes them anyway, despite their uselessness. A mere servant's scribblings would offer her no peace. Wings that pump uselessly, legs of swaying lead, throat still choked, eyes that can't see, and a heart that outweighs them all. The wind is deafening, maddening. Silence will drive the mare mad. The tears and little red nicks from the last outburst are only proof of that. But sound isn't much better. The mare's magic falters, and the mare reaches up with one hoof of gold. She had called them shackles in her writing, and from her experience, it was rightly so. So the mare catches all that is left, unsorted scraps of words that managed to remain untorn in description, dry of tears, preserved, unbroken. Everything the mare wasn't. The mare who nothing of where the horizon leads, what lies beyond, or even the current land where the mare, plain, unnamed, as pure, no, as blank as the white fur that covers unfeeling skin, hooves gloved in gold to keep their impurities from tainting the sainted, hallowed words, as painful as carved flesh, they cannot be kept. The mare's bearings are off. The flight is aimless now. To say that the mare is apathetic would be a lie. It isn't that there isn't care, or empathy, or love, and mirth, such nasty, joyous things. The mare is only dead from the inside out. An excerpt from an archived issue of an old newsletter that was available to the public through Trottingham's Public Library. The subject of the article is a grand reopening of Trottingham's then new museum and a surprise visit from Princess Celestia of Equestria. However, the text has been modernized since the original was lost. The princess, while slightly disheveled from her trip, showed great joy upon her arrival. The radiant goddess, while acting oddly reserved at times, for one as social as herself, made plenty of time to talk to the ponies gathered here today for this grand occasion. She must have been feeling slightly ill from her trip, because at times the princess appeared almost confrontational towards visiting equestrians and asking them what they thought about her sister, which was very unlike her. The Trottingham natives blinked and scratched their manes for a moment before recalling that Celestia did indeed have a sister, but she wasn't given much attention by any pony. A few of the equestrians laughed at such questions, since they must have been a joke on the part of the social and joyful equestrian goddess. It must have been so hard for her these past few months, going out into the old lands in the north all alone. The word in Equestria is that a monster named Nightmare Moon managed to work some spellcraft and overpower Celestia's sister on the night Celestia's home in the Everfree Forest was destroyed. Equestria was shocked at the princess's tears, but it was understandable, as the normally happy and imperial goddess had lost her home and now had to work both the sun and moon, which now bore signs of the hideous monster sealed within. A few ponies were overheard asking her if she might be able to do something about the unsightly blotches. "What does it matter? None of you are ever up at night to look at her. The moon," was Celestia's response, which was quickly appreciated for the joke it was, since was it not Celestia of the southern kingdom of Equestria who advocated so strongly for ponies to stay inside as much as possible during the night? She even took appropriate measures in cutting the funds for any frivolous activities she could that did not meet a diurnal schedule, or the standards of good ponies like us. It was she who preached of the evils that darkness held, and of the moon calves and monsters that lurked within the twisted perversions of the sun's light that the moon shed. No pony would endorse anything so non-conforming, and equestrians are thankful that they have a princess like her. She was generous to add some old and unreadable diaries to the museum's collection. At first, It almost looked like the princess was shocked that everyone was laughing at her joke, even though she has been known to be a bit of a trickster herself, and this reaction was unlikely to be genuine since this is something she would laugh at as well. After a while, she laughed too. When she comes home, broken beyond all hope of repair, so small inside, heart shrunken and withered, with no pony to love, now that she knows that she failed as a sister. She's weak, but only on the inside, frayed threads of black and white, little absolutes that barely manage to keep her together, but never do they cross, if they could at all. Insignificant, towering over every pony, her shadow is a blanket, a shroud that covers the coffin of each and every pony she has ever loved at one point or another. Even if it took so long to realize any of it, and how much she had, how much she would never see, only to be told through ink-scribed runes that would crumble behind the archive doors while she sat on the throne. Her wish from before it all, archived, alone, her greatest fear, her reality, alone, everything she ever wanted, before her, after her, ever after. She sits and smiles, glad in gold regalia, with a shining new urn of a city, gilded around the edges of her heart, caught betwixt death's throes, for what could only be time everlasting. Pearlescent teeth gleam to each visitor, to squeeze back the tears she wants to cry, little drops of unshed poison, to nourish a loveless goddess. She loves each little pony, no matter how much they stab her back. All she can, taking the first steps these regal chains will allow, to make them change, no matter the sacrifice. No matter the sacrifice. So outwardly, she sits and smiles, with a kindly wave now and again, passively looking onward, since the fire in her is dying, along with the murmurs of there ever being another, as the name that should have mattered to her most is struck from every record. She knows no hope, the mare in gold. Just smiles and sacrifice. Her belief in magic severs with each passing year, with no more answers to come, and she'll wait forevermore. Support me on Patreon and Ko-fi, links in the description. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe. Good night, every pony.